Namaskar and welcome, dear learners, to today's discussion on Diaspora Studies today. I'm Professor Shubhangi Vaidya from the School of Interdisciplinary and Trans-Disciplinary Studies at Ignou, and with me is my colleague Dr. Sadananda Sahoo, an expert in Diaspora Studies and Program Coordinator of the Master of Arts program in Migration and Diaspora, which is being offered by the School of Interdisciplinary and Trans-Disciplinary Studies. Human migration is a process that has been taking place throughout history. Human populations have migrated across the world in search of work, education, better life prospects, in some cases freedom from persecution, and various other factors. The term diaspora refers to the dispersion or spread of a people from their original homeland across the world, and has been a source of immense interest for scholars from multiple disciplines, including history, economics, sociology, literature and culture studies, gender studies, and the like. In this context, it will be very, very interesting to discuss the position of diaspora studies in the world of academics today, as well as specifically discuss the issues pertaining to the Indian diaspora. So we are very fortunate that Dr. Sahoo is here with us, who is an expert in the area. And let me right from at the very outset ask him, Dr. Sahoo, please tell us, what do you think is the relevance of diaspora studies as an interdisciplinary area?
Professor Shubhangi, very good to meet here. And this is a very important topic. In fact, I was waiting for this kind of question. And diaspora studies, if you want to analyze, you have to know the concept itself. And the concept itself is evolving over time. If we see 1980s, it was not there. Though it was, applied to religious dispersion and all this in the context of Hebrews and Jews. But academically, for the first time, Gabriel Schaffer popularized it in his, book, Diaspora and International Politics. But during that time, he used this concept mostly for post-migration, and little bit you can say those who are not coming back, means permanently settled population outside their country. But over 20-30 years you can see so many disciplines have come and they have discussed on this concept. Concept evolved because of so many interest from lots of stakeholders, including nation states, NGOs, academics, media. So they have traced the concept to all angles, in fact. So today if we see, diaspora applies to migrant population, it applies to refugee, it applies to host of population who are outside their country of origin. So when you talk about this kind of concept, you can say, they are linked to multiple areas. For example, when you talk about even Jews also, it is very much part of international relation, because Jews are persecuted in many countries, and today, if you consider, Jews are one of the most influential community. They have no more victim, but they are playing, as a victim community. But if you see over time, 1990s played a major role in changing the perception towards diaspora as a concept or a phenomenon. So,
no, that's actually very interesting, because I think the 1980s and 90s were also a time of globalization as a very, very important process. So can we discuss the impact of globalization on diaspora?
Yes. There I always think why 1990s played an important role. You see, that is the time when IT revolution happened. That is the time where time and space lose its importance.
Right.
That is the time when diaspora became popular, resourceful abroad, like Indian, in Silicon Valley, Chinese in, Canada, Australia and all. They were no more, labor class, their victim and all, but rather they are entrepreneur, they are politically significant in many countries. So diaspora became very positive, and that is the time when even organizations like IOM, UNDP, they played a major role for change of perception towards migrant and diaspora community. UNDP brought a annual report called Development on the Move.
This is the United Nations Development
Yes,
Program.
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So migration is very much linked with the development. Before that, even today also, we always don't think migration is linked to development. But before 90s, it was a very derogatory term, in fact. As if they are taking away your job, privileges and all this. So migrants across the globe, they are considered inferior, taking away their, natives' job. They are a, kind of burden on the, local economy. But during 1990, you find lots of changes happening across the globe. In fact, another also important development happened in Australia in 1973, when the term multiculturalism came. And that is also again to accommodate different culture, including diaspora, because Australia is encountering lots of conflict before that. So then they adopted this concept multiculturalism, and that became popular even in Canada, other places, and that is how diaspora got an identity. Otherwise, before that, diaspora was looked down and they were thought they should assimilate.
Right.
Instead of having an independent identity, preserving their culture, they are considered to be, they should be assimilated, otherwise they will be hostile to the local culture, economy and all. So when you talk about diaspora studies, it has a multiple angle, and including international relation, economic contribution like entrepreneurship, investment, remittances. And today you see why we consider diaspora important, because of they are successful across the globe. Even the not so successful diaspora, those are going to Gulf and other countries, their contribution is very important for India.
Like you've raised the very, very important issue of remittances. And before we come to that, you also mentioned, the changing context, the ways in which home countries and host countries, the relationships were, changed in a sense because of the whole issue of development. And you also mentioned the role of Indian diaspora. So can we discuss that in a little bit of detail? Because we see that the Indian diaspora is one of the most significant diasporas globally, dating back to even pre-colonial times. So how do we approach the study of such a vast and diverse diaspora, which has seen so many interesting waves of migration? So that would be an interesting
In fact, Indian diaspora considered to be number one today. If you take the statistics, both PIO and current migrant.
That's persons of Indian origin.
Indian origin and the NRI and other new group, which includes even students and workers and all this. So 31 million.
31 million?
Yes, 31 million. Figure, and this is not just present status I'm talking. You all know that India is the number one country in terms of population. Next 30 to 40 years, this number also will grow. So obviously India will have most populous diaspora even outside for next few decades.
Right.
So it has a very big challenge for us also. The way we engage that bring the outcome, whether we should be developed or not, because economic side also we have to explore. If we see historically, diaspora played a very important role. Starting from Gadar movement to independence movement, it played a very important role in nation building.
Right.
After independence also, if you see many key important people, if you see Mahatma Gandhi also returned, Jawaharlal Nehru, Ambedkar, many other people, they have come back to India after long time abroad, and they contributed towards India in every angle, politics, economy. And then 1960s, you see another phase of, NRI. They came back, MS Swaminathan and many other, even many IT, and medical professionals like the Apollo Hospital, Pratap Reddy and many other. They came back and they, entrepreneurial revolution happened in India. So diaspora is a resourceful. It is also playing a soft power role. If you see many countries, almost Indians are there almost in 150 countries. Out of that, around 10 countries, they are significant minority.
Right.
And in some, at least 4 countries, they are actually majority. Mauritius, Trinidad, Tobago, Suriname, Guyana and all this. So this is if you see, this is a huge soft power for India. And this is very important for modern day when, international relation is very challenging. You have people all across the globe who can actually help in, building relationship with the other countries.
These are all very, very important points that you've mentioned. And I was particularly interested in that point about the diaspora in countries like Suriname, Mauritius, etc., which were all a part of really the colonial diaspora, the diaspora that went to these countries as indentured labor. So could you tell our audience a little bit about that phase of history?
Yes.
And, yeah.
If you see indentured labor, the demography was different. It was mostly, if you see, labor class.
Right.
That is also sometimes called as indentured labor or labor diaspora. Mm-hmm. Okay? So those times they struggled, they got, settled in other country. So the population also very different. The composition of women, the composition, caste composition, class composition, completely different. And they are almost like slave, with all contract and everything. They didn't have freedom. But over time they struggled, built their future, built the country's future, and today you see they are different.
Exactly.
They are even better than Indian counterparts here. So, and politically they played a very significant role. Even today you see Rishi Sunak, Kamala Harris, they are from those indentured diaspora, many of them. And they play a very important role in advanced countries like USA, UK. So this is what, the huge upward mobility you can see in economic side also, political side and cultural side also. Culturally, they are very vibrant.
So you mentioned culture. I think it would be very interesting to know what kind of links that these diasporic communities have with the home culture, the native culture, in terms of, observance of festivals, rituals, and so on and so forth. Because we see a lot of, attraction or a lot of attachment to the native culture, even amongst diasporic populations. And we read that a lot in literature. We see that a lot in their daily practices and so on. So in terms of retaining their links with the home country through culture, through language, through music, through food habits, this is something very, very interesting from a social science perspective. Would you like to?
Yes, if you see the soft power diplomacy, already I told, but there is also economic side to that. Their culture consumer, okay? And if you see Indian culture becoming globalized, Bollywood becoming globalized, our food habits are becoming globalized. You can find samosas across the globe now, dosas across the globe now. So this thanks to our diaspora. And they preserve culture, not only they preserve, they also popularize. And this kind of thing is very important for, globalization.
Right.
And you go to any country, even culture is not static also. It always enrich with when it come in contact with the native culture. You find creolization, hybridization, you find chutney music. So these are new experiment when Indian music, Indian kind of art and culture intermingle with the native in Africa and other places. So there is lots of new experiments in culture field, in literature field, all happening. And if you see English literature also enriched by diaspora.
Right.
Last few decades you can find all the major, literature Nobel laureates. They are African diaspora, they are Indian diaspora. So they have contributed immensely in every field. Say it, film, say it literature, culinary, music, in every angle. So they have actually created a very positive side of globalization, where two cultures they coexist and they accept each other and enrich also.
It's very, very interesting. One sort of set of migrants who have become very important, and practically you would find in many, many families these days, a lot of students, a lot of young people are going abroad to study or to in search of higher education. So what kind of impact does this have on, say, the Indian economy, the concept of brain drain? Because these are very, very important contemporary issues that are being discussed.
In fact, when we see economic side of migration, we cannot stop it.
Right.
Because people will, anyway they go. Even advanced countries like UK and Australia and many countries who are actually advanced, they are also experiencing migration. Because within that, some segment they will be more globalized. They have skills which are in demand in other countries. So they will be mobile. And Indian population, we have a huge unemployment, traditionally also, even current time also. And our economy cannot absorb them. So obviously they will migrate for a better opportunity, and that is how some strategies there. If you go as a student, you get better opportunity. Not only because you get better education and subsequently you get a better opportunity.
But Dr. Sahoo, there's also a very sinister side to this, that, a lot of people are lured with the idea of migration and better prospects, but in fact they fall victim to touts, they become victims of trafficking, and human trafficking is a very, very serious contemporary problem. So would you like to discuss a little bit about that?
In fact, that is the negative side of every migration. We have to, that's why we need migration governance.
Right.
That's why we need kind of very good international legal procedures, and through bilateral relation, through multilateral relation, and that's why if you see now, last 2-3 years, there is a concept called Global Compact for Migration, which is a overarching, legal, non-binding legal framework to make country to facilitate migration, safe migration, and more orderly migration. And that is what happening, and it has 23 objectives, which includes a range of topics like safe migration, human rights, then gender issues and all this. So slowly, many countries are agreeing upon. I think there are more than 150 countries signatory to it. So migration is understood that is very important, unavoidable. So we need to facilitate for mutual benefit. So in fact, human rights is always a problem, even during colonial time also. Within the community also human rights violation is there. Within host country also there are violations. So that is always there, that is the negative side. And that's why we need to have better migration governance.
So a strong migration governance, particularly for those migrants who may be less educated or may be less aware of the legal ramifications of their migration. Dr. Sahoo, you mentioned a very important element, and that is the gender perspective. And so I think this is a huge area of discussion and intervention. So could you highlight some of the major issues with regard to gender and migration?
Yes. In fact, last question you asked about student migration. In fact, when you talk about gender migration, if in the Indian context, colonial diaspora has a very less proportionate of female migration. Because many of them, that time even male going abroad was, considered something, they lose their religion and everything, Kalapani. So female going abroad was something more unthinkable.
Yeah, right.
And that time who are going, mainly the people who they lost their husband, or kind of destitute, beggars and all those. So those composition have changed today. You find more independent, already high-skilled people. If they don't need anybody's support to go abroad, they are going independently as student, was workers, even the low-skilled workers. You'll be surprised the workers who are going large number, they are not software engineer or medical, high-skilled workers. They are nurses,
right,
care workers. This is the large chunk of migrant going, and it will increase actually in the future. So when you talk about women workers, this is the segment is very important.
But this is also the segment, the care workers and, people who go maybe as domestic help or nannies or, caregivers for children, the aged, etc. They are also a section that is most liable to be exploited and who are extremely vulnerable. So what would you have to say in this regard?
That is how I gave example of Global Compact for migration. And increasingly, there is a consensus developing and stakeholders are coming together. Like this is not the case, we can only blame government. This is the case which even the migrant themselves have to be blamed. Sometimes they, because of lure of job and all, they go easy way and they don't follow any procedure. We need to, bring all stakeholders, including the recruiter, the NGOs, Diaspora organization and all this, and increasingly this is happening. Though exploitation is happening, but this is also happening. That is how I am saying that the Global Compact for migration is gaining its momentum now. And this section, which are more vulnerable, as you mentioned, the semi-literate, semi-skilled and care workers type, they are more, and Indian government, in fact, there is a term called ECR, immigration
check required.
So that is one way creating some kinds of check and balance. But it is not a good thing for migration sometimes, because you have to compete with Philippines migrant, other country migrants. So then ECR prohibit you to migrate before certain age. So these are some, many sides of the thing. But obviously they are prone to, exploitation,
yes.
other kind of human rights violation. But India also experiencing this kind of migration last 30 years or so. And slowly various, mechanisms are in place. For example, Kerala state government, which actually experienced this little before compared to many other states, they have many things in place. In fact, we should all, take their experience and implement to, other states like Bihar and UP, Orissa, where the migrants are little recent. Okay, so there are certain, check and balance involving government machinery and NGOs, diaspora organization. So it is happening.
So basically there's a very urgent need for all these agencies which are involved in the process of migration to educate, to empower, to give the basic information and the basic do the basic diligence with regard to female migrants particularly and illiterate ones
Yes.
most importantly. Another category of migrants which has become very, very significant given the kind of global political situation is refugees and those who are leaving their countries for various political reasons or reasons of persecution, conflict, etc. And also a new category of migrants who are displaced due to climate change. So could we talk a little bit about these?
Yes, unfortunately, as globalization happening, people are becoming modernized. We find parallelly this section also growing. The forced migrant. We use this term for a host of, a migrant who are refugee, who are asylum seeker, who are forced to climate this thing. So they are forced migrant. So this section is growing in last 20-30 years because climate-related disasters are frequent now. War also, if you see Syrian conflict, then Afghanistan, then recently Russia, Ukraine, and many other places where civil war is happening. So lots of, forced migration is happening, and they are the most victim because they are not accepted anywhere. And they don't have that skill set where, you can use immediately in economy. You don't know who is having what skill and they are being suspicious also. So many factors, and this is the most vulnerable section. And I think we need urgent action. But unfortunately, this section is neglected. For example, in India, we have so many refugees, but we also consider them differentially. because for our geopolitical and other reasons. Every country is like that.
Absolutely.
If you see Ukraine, Ukraine refugees are welcome in European country, but African refugees are not welcome in same way.
There are certain very interesting, I think, larger processes at work here. For instance, racial prejudices, ethnic prejudices, and so on. So these are extremely difficult, not just human rights, but also very, very, big human problems where people are actually suffering. And I think there needs to be a lot more awareness, a lot more policy to rehabilitate, to ensure that a good quality of life is available for all. And often the biggest sufferers are women and children who are really, always the ones who suffer the most in these kinds of situations. Let us talk a little bit, Dr. Sahoo, about contemporary challenges with regard to migration and diaspora. So what are some of the important, I'm asking this question specifically because the world has just come out through this huge pandemic situation, and I think the COVID pandemic has created a lot of issues and a lot of challenges, particularly with regard to migration and diaspora. So would you like to talk a little bit about that?
In fact, I'll add one term, contemporary challenges and opportunity also. Because challenge will come anyway, but opportunity also have to see, otherwise there is no solution. So contemporary challenges, in fact, if you see, there are many such. You already mentioned climate issue, you mentioned the refugee crisis is growing. These are also contemporary challenges. Increasing, female migration is a big issue. India's case, especially if you take, we have a bigger challenge also because our population is huge now. Where to take, in the sense, skill mismatch is a big challenge. You cannot send the traditional countries, same migrant anymore. You see, many countries are high-tech now. You see, the same person 10 years back in Gulf, now same job is not there. So these are all so many, it is some complex, migration policy now is very dynamic. Every day things are changing. Unlike earlier, policies are 10 years, stable. Now every incident can change your policy overnight. COVID, for example, then some war, then some kinds of epidemics and many factors, technological change and so many, geopolitics. Every incident can change the migration policy overnight. So these are the challenge, how to make your policy sustainable and stable also.
Well, I think we've had a very interesting discussion about the various dimensions, challenges, opportunities in the area of diaspora studies. So now would you like to talk a little bit about the specific program that Ignou is offering, which is the Master of Arts in Diaspora and in Migration and Diaspora?
In fact, Professor Shubhangi, our program is very forward-looking. We designed the program taking input from stakeholders, from industry, from government, from academics, and various aspects are incorporated. You talked about human rights, it is there. We have 3 courses dedicated for human rights issue, human trafficking and other issue. We have courses related to international relation. We have courses related to Indian diaspora specifically. And surprised to know, India has many diaspora within country.
Yes.
So we have a course on that also. We have, to balance, you have to see in a very comparative perspective what kind of policy we are doing for diaspora so that we can expect our diaspora get better, policy. So this program is very, covering many aspects which are again interdisciplinary. We cannot deal from sociology or economic side alone, but it has a component from culture, literature, public policy, and many areas. So we have a very balanced program, 80 credit program, covering all aspects, coming from theory to practical, from methodology, international relation, all aspects. I will be very happy if you can, go to our website and browse. The details are there.
So I think for learners who may be interested in this program, do browse the details about this program at the Ignou website, www.ignou.ac.in. And I think with that, we wind up our discussion. Thank you so much, Dr. Sahoo. It was really interesting and absorbing. And I don't know how half an hour has just gone, but thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor.
Are you interested in television journalism or radio journalism or online journalism? Or do you want to learn with the flexibility of open learning? Or if you are a working professional, wants to enhance your knowledge and skill with certification in the field of electronic media, then School of Journalism and New Media Study Ignou offers PG Diploma in Electronic Media for you. This program includes audio and audio-visual program production for radio, television and online platforms. Here are some important details about the program. We have total 8 courses of 32 credits, 6 theory courses, 1 practical and 1 project. Eligibility: bachelor's degree in any subject. Minimum duration 1 year, maximum 3 years. Medium is English, but students can write their examinations, assignments, practical and project in Hindi also. So if you are interested in television, radio or online media, please come and join Ignou's PG Diploma in Electronic Media.
Hello and welcome to the session. In today's session, we will do analysis of 3 very simple algorithms. One is relating to squaring or cubing a particular value. The other algorithm relates to matrix multiplication. And the third algorithm is about exponentiation. But what should be the basis of doing analysis of these algorithms? There has to be a complexity calculation. So what we have selected for presentation of these algorithm or for analyzing these algorithm is the big O notation, right? So I am defining the big O notation in this particular slide, where to represent the what big O notation does, it represents the upper bound or worst case of an algorithm, which finds the maximum number of steps to be to solve a particular problem. So basically, big O is going to give you maximum number of steps, right, for solving a particular problem. And if we can define the maximum number of problems, then we will be able to know the worst case behavior of that particular problem. But what are the advantages of using big O notation? After all, why we are just interested in worst case? Well, why we are using upper bound is it bounds the growth of the running time from above for large values of input sizes. So topmost values are bounded, right? It notifies that a particular procedure will never go beyond a specific time for every input size n. So you are able to define the maximum time needed by a particular problem, And advantage is basically it makes algorithms much easier to analyze, since we are conveniently we can conveniently ignore low order terms. So we will be just interested in the highest order term of the polynomial, and that is what is going to give us the complexity of that particular algorithm. But how we are defining this particular big O notation? Well, this is once again we are giving over here. Let fn and gn be two positive functions, which are also shown in graph. Fn is represented by this particular line, whereas gn is being represented by this particular cgn. It's not just gn, gn multiplied by some constant. So c can be any constant. Okay, be two positive functions, such functions each from the set of natural number domains to positive real number range, right? So basically n is basically containing the value of natural numbers, and the real numbers is the range, that is the gn value or the fn value. Then how we are defining big O notation? Fn equals to big O g of n if there exists two positive constant. We need two positive constants c and n0 such that fn is always less than equals to cgn for all n greater than equals to n0. So look into the graph and it will be becoming very clear to you that below n0, right, you may find that fn is more than cgn, but beyond this particular n0, right, so beyond this particular value n0, this particular cgn is more than fn. So this basically is showing us an upper bound for the value above n0, not below n0, right? So it makes the order n, the big O of gn for the value n is greater than equals to n0. So for this is the way we define the big O notation of ours. So once we have defined the big O notation, let us try to look into some of the simplest algorithms and how we can represent these algorithms into big O notation or their complexity in big O notation. The very first algorithm which we are going to discuss is summation algorithm for computing I cube. Right. So basically this is from I is equal to 1 to n, we are just computing I cube. What does it mean? 1 cube plus 2 cube plus 3 cubes till n cube. So this is the way we are going to compute the cube of them. Now the algorithm is very simple. In fact, we have not represented algorithm, but it is almost an implementation very, very close to C, right? So here we have a function sum of cubes, and the value is int n. It is taking one parameter n, which is the highest like n value from 1 to n we have to compute. So we are just taking input n, and an integer I is there, right? So integer I is some predefined value is going to be, I mean I is the value which we are going to take, and we have to compute 1 cube plus 2 cube and so on and so forth. So 1 to n. So what basically we are starting with, we are declaring two values, then temporary result equals to, we are starting with the 0 as temporary result. Next step, then we have a for loop, because the value of I from 1 till n, right? So this loop is going to be executed for value 1 to n, and what we are going to do, temporary result will be assigned the value of temporary result plus I cube. Okay, and the value of temporary result will be returned by this particular statement. So let's look into the complexity, how we are going to compute the complexity for this particular algorithm. So if we see line 1, what it is doing, just 2 units of time required, and those are for declaration, which is very, very low time in any case. Line number 2, if we see, then it is simple assignment statement. Okay, so 1 unit of time for assignment. Thereafter, we have at line 3, the for loop has several unit cost. First, initialization, So we are putting I equals to 1. So 1 unit cost for initialization. Remember, initialization is going to take place only once. That is why this for loop, initialization is going to be taking place only one, okay, for the entire loop. Cost of testing I is less than equals to n. Now this is going to happen in every step. Okay, and during the termination, so also, so it will be like this particular step will be executed n plus 1 time, because at the time of termination also it will be checked. So for the value of n plus 1 also it will be checked, right? Then only the termination is going to take place. So this is going to require n plus 1 unit cost, and then cost of incrementing, that is I plus plus, which is 1 unit. Right. So this whole loop is going to require these many as far as for loop this particular statement is concerned. Thereafter, this statement will be executed n times, right? So now if this statement is to be executed n times, so what would be the cost? This is line 4. So total cost of the previous for loop happens to be 2n plus 1, but this line 4 is going to be executed for n times, and 2 unit of time, 2 times we are doing multiplication. First we'll multiply I with I, and then this I square will be multiplied with I. So that's why there are 2 multiplications. 1 unit of addition, this will be added to value temp result, and then next will be one unit of time will be for assignment operation. So this value will be assigned to the original value of temp result. Therefore, the total cost of this step is 4 times. Why n? Because this particular instruction is going to be executed n times. Okay, and finally, this return statement is going to take just 1 unit of time, and it will be executed only 1. So if we just add all these values, so what we are getting overall cost to be 6n plus 6. Right. Now, as soon as we go to 6n plus 6, what is this value? CGN, right? CGN plus some constant. So now C over here, since it is slightly more than that, so we can say C, the value of C is going to be 7. It is always going to be less than 7 like that. And you can find out the value of N0 for that, maybe 6 or something will come out to be that. But overall, if we see that, what is the order of this particular, or big O of this particular order of this particular algorithm is going to be just the linear time, right? Because Gn happens to be n, right? So this is basically order n only. So this is the way we can compute the complexity as far as very simple algorithm like I cube, just summation of I cube is concerned. However, they can be slightly more complex algorithms. So how we are going to compute in those cases? So let's first take the case of matrix multiplication. Well, how do we define matrix multiplication? So matrices, first of all, where matrices are needed altogether. Matrices are needed in solving a set of linear equations, coordinate systems, network modeling, etc. So you will find there are many places where networks are used for problem solving domain. Okay, now consider 2 matrices A and B of the order 3 cross 3 each. So there are 2 matrices A and B. A is represented, so you know the matrix representation, A11 is the first element, right? The first row and the first column, right? So first represents the row and second represents the column. So this is A11, A12 is the second column, first row, A13 is first row, third column, like that. Okay, second row and the third row. So this is the matrix A, this is the matrix B, and when you multiply these 2 matrices, okay, what we are assuming that this is equals to C, a matrix C. So our results are going to be stored in matrix C. And how C will be computed? The C is going to be computed. For example, I want to compute C11. So C11, this row, that is the first row. C11 means first row. Okay, so we will pick up all the elements of first row and first column. So first column from B. So I'll multiply A11 with B11, A12 with B12, and A13 with B31. So this is the way we are going to get the value of C, and just sum them up, we get the value of C11. How we do it for C21? So once again, when we are doing for C21, what we have to look for? Row 2. So we pick up A21, A22, A23, and we have to multiply it with column B11, B21, B31. So first column, right? So A31 multiplied by, no sorry, A21 multiplied by B11, A22 multiplied by B21, and A23 multiplied by B31. If we want to represent this information, what we can say, it is Cij. If I want to obtain the value of Cij, it is equals to k. We take another third variable k, and the value of k is moved from 1 to n. N happens to be the dimension of the two matrices, n cross n matrix, and it is aik into bkj. And you can check, suppose k equals to, if I say a11, c11, so what is going to be a11 multiplied by b11 plus A12 k is going from to A12 multiplied by B21, like that. So you will get all these equations. You can get equation for each value of C. So this is the way the matrix multiplication is performed. Now if this is the way, then what is going to be the algorithm for this matrix multiplication? You know the method, right? But then we have to convert this particular method into a simple, very simple algorithm. And this is what the algorithm will look like. So what we have input, two square matrices A and B of n cross n, and output is going to be C, once again n cross n, and matrix, what we are doing is multiplying, basically this is a function A, B and C. So C is going to be the output and n cross n is the size, so that is represented by just one variable n. And what is the way the whole thing is going to go on? First, for I equals to 1 to n, and for j is equal to 1 to n. Okay, because we have to compute each and every value, C11, C12 and all that. Therefore, this particular for I equals to 1 to n and for j equals to 1 to n, right? This is what? Cij. So we are doing it for all I and j's. So all ij's are I is equal to 1 to n, for j equals to 1 to n. Cij is for initialized to be 0. And then for value of k to 1 to n, we are just summing up the value of aik into bkj, multiply it, and for this particular loop, for k is equal to 1 to n, this is being done. Then it will be done for all the values of Cij in the outside loop. So this is the way the matrix multiplication can be done with the help of an algorithm. But what is going to be the complexity of this algorithm? That is of concern to us. But before we go to that, let's look into an example of execution of this particular algorithm. So for I equals to 1 to n and for j equals to 1 to n, assume I equals to 2 and j equals to 3. So let's take any value 2 and 3. So how it is going? Cij happens to be C23 equals to 0. For k is equal to 1 to n, what is going to be? This is going to be C23. It was initialized to be 0 outside. So first value, when k equals to 1, it will be 0. When k equals to 2, it will be the summation, already summed up value. And what values will be there? aik. So first, in the first, when the value of k is 1, it is a21 multiplied by b1, 3. That's what we wanted. Okay. Then in the case when k equals to 2, it is a22 multiplied by b23. Like that, you will keep on adding these values into C23 and you will get the required result. So this is the way we did the matrix multiplication, and this is the way the example. So it is basically proving that our algorithm is quite correct and there is no issue with this particular algorithm. Then what is the analysis of this matrix multiplication? How we are going to analyze it? Now here are 3 loops, right? So the outermost loop will be executed n times, that's all. It's not going to be executed anything more than that. The nested for loop for j will be executed n time for each value of I. So j will actually be executed like this n times. So this will be executed n times. So the overall total number of iterations of these 2 loops, right, are going to be n square. That is, I is equal to 1, j equals to 1, I equals to 1, j equals to 2, I equals to 1, j equals to 3. Let's say n equals to 3. Then I equals to 2, it will move to I equals to 2 and like that, right? Then the j value will once again change from 1 to 3. So thus the loop will be executed, these two loops will be executed n square times, whereas j will be executed n times only. Thus, okay, the assignment statement inside the for loop takes constant time, as it includes only one assignment. Okay, so after that this is going to take one assignment. The innermost nested loop, now this particular loop, okay, will be executed once again n times for every value of I and j. Thus the loops will be executed, overall these three loops are going to be executed n cube times. The statement inside the third loop includes just one multiplication, this is the multiplication, and the one addition and one assignment, right? So these are all, thus will take some constant time. So all these are just one time, right? So these are the constant time for over there. Hence, overall complexity of this whole algorithm is equivalent to the number of times the loop is getting executed, and that number of times loop is getting executed is n cube. So this is of the order n cube. So if you are multiplying two matrices of order n cross n, right, the complexity of that algorithm is going to be n cube. Well, these two algorithms are fine. Let's try to look into another interesting aspect, which we call exponent evaluation, and how we can use brute force methods to use it. Okay, now the exponent evaluation basically is used in cryptography. In any case, many a times you encounter the term x to the power n. Let's say 4 to the power 10. If you want to compute, how you are going to do that? Well, the brute force method to do so, suppose we want to compute a to the power n, then we are going to express it as a multiplied by a into a, and n minus 1 multiplications are required, just like you have seen in I cube we required I into I into I, just 2 multiplication, right? So n minus 1 multiplication for computing a to the power n. But this is a very, very bad method. This brute force method is a very bad method. And if the value of n is very, very large, then this is not a practical method. Say the value of n is 100, then it is not considered to be a good method, because you have to compute this value 99 times, right? So what can be an alternate method of this? There is an alternate method which is called binary exponentiation method. Now, binary exponentiation methods are very, very interesting in domain. Why binary exponentiation? Because in binary, the value gets double as you move from the leftmost bit to the next and so on. So every time the value becomes square of the previous value. So let's look into how exactly this binary exponentiation method works. Split the exponent using the binary representation and do the multiplication. So that is the key. So whatever is the exponent. So for example, we have 4 to the power 13, right, where the value of a is 4 and the exponent n is 13. So what 13 in binary is 1, 1, 8 plus 4, 12 plus 1, 13, right? So 1, 1, 0, 1 is our binary exponent, right? So how you can do exponentiation? So we just put our binary numbers over here, right? So first, that 4 to the power, let's say 1 is 4, right? 1 exponentiation is 4. The value is 1, so this output is 4. Next, we just multiply with this 4 by another 4, right? So what we get? 16. So 4 square, right? So power 2, right? 4 power 2 is 16. However, we have a 0 in the exponentiation, so it's all right. But we still have this 16 as 4 square, right? We know this value. Then in the next step, we multiply 4 square with 4 square, because that is what? The power 2. 4 to the power 4. Now we just square once. Now we are squaring the value of 16. So we square the value of 16 and what we get is 256. The value 1 over here and like that. And over here we get the value 8. So 8, this represents 4 to the power 8. this represents 4 to the power 4, this represents 4 to the power, this is 16 is 4 to the power 2, and this is 4 to the power 1. Right. So when we multiply 4 to the power 8 with 4 to the power 4 and 4 to the power 1, what we get is 4 to the power 13. 8 plus 4 plus 1. The power gets added. When you simply multiply these three terms, you get the required number of computation. Now see how many computations has been reduced from 13, just 1, 2, 3 and 4 over here, and 1 over here, 1 extra multiplication. So in total 5 multiplications you are able to compute the 4 to the power 13. Now that is a great saving, and that is how you need to design algorithms. Very simple methods, utilize them and do better as far as computations are concerned. Right. Now if we see then there are two kinds of exponentiations which are going to be possible here. So first is left to right binary exponentiation, and another is going to be right to left exponentiation. Well, suppose input A and binary string of length S, right? So binary string is basically representing the exponentiation, okay, and we put it in an array AS, right? So output is final value of A to the power n, and we start with the result as A, and for I from S minus 2, the values, this is what is showing this particular example. So we'll just have you start, this is from top down. So S minus 2 to 0. So you are starting in the array from 2 values after that and then going till 0, because AS means the value are starting from 0, 1, 2, 3 like that, okay, in reverse order. And then you are simply multiplying result with result. That is what, every time you are squaring the value which you have obtained. So, and finally, if what we are saying, if AI equals to 1, then result is basically multiply result with A, and finally you return the result. How this particular algorithm will be executed? So let's compute the value of A to the power 17. So n is 17, that is 10001. S is 5. Result equals to, let's say we are starting with result equals to A. Iteration, we are starting the value of I as S minus 2, that is 3, right? So the value of 1, 2, 3, right? So it is 0. So the result, A, just we compute A square, A3 equals to 0, so nothing is to be done. Then for value from S, the value S minus 2 was 3. Now we are going to the value of I to 2. And then once again we multiply A square with A square, which is already obtained. We obtain A4, A2 is 0, nothing to be done. Then A4 and A4 is multiplied. A1 is still 0, right? A1 is still 0, and nothing has to be done. And finally, when I equals to 0, the result equals to A8 into A8. And what we are getting over here? Okay, so that is A16. And as per the algorithm, result into A. So we multiply it by A and we get the value A17. So this is how we are going to compute the right to left. And the complexity of this algorithm. Now, the interesting part of this particular algorithm is that the number of computations are reducing drastically in this particular case, right? So it is going to be just like I showed you, that is going to reduce. If you, the number of computations are going to be 2 S minus 1, S minus 1. And S happens to be n equals to 2 to the power S. So S equals to order of log 2n. That means the complexity of this kind of an algorithm is drastically reduced, and you can compute the results in a much, much more effective manner. Right? So the whole idea is, when you design algorithms, you make sure that the algorithms are able to do something very useful. So what we have done in this session is, it explains the process of analyzing simple algorithm. The three algorithms which we have considered is summation algorithm, whose order, big O order is basically order n, matrix multiplication, which is order n cube, and exponent evaluation, which is order log 2n. With this, we end this particular session. Thanks for being with us.
Hello viewers. This MA program in Environmental and Occupational Health focuses on the relationship between people and their environment and fosters safe and healthy communities. And this is of utmost importance. This program is an MA in Environmental and Occupational Health. The type of the program is a master's program and the medium of instruction will be in English. The duration of the program will be a minimum of 2 years and a maximum of 4 years. The target group will be a graduation from any discipline. Mainly the professionals working in environmental and occupational sector and non-governmental organizations are welcome to join. Doctors, nurses, paramedical graduates and employees can join the course. Employees from the Central Pollution Control Board, civil servants of the state and central governments, faculty, researchers and students in universities, research organizations and colleges will find this program very interesting. Graduates aspiring to pursue a career in environmental management, occupational health and safety, industrial health and safety will also find this program of useful relevance. The job opportunities for this program is tremendous. They can work as environmental health and safety specialist, occupational health and safety specialist in various organizations, HSE coordinator and protection officers. They can also work as worksite wellness coordinators, public administration and safety professionals. They can also work as industrial hygienists and ergonomists in the various organizations. Then the safety and environmental health managers, toxicologists, health and safety engineering specializations are also very important. The objectives of this program include the following. They will discuss the impact of the environmental hazards on human health. Then they will describe the policies, laws, standards and the measurement techniques and applications in different occupational setups. They will also help to develop mitigation strategies to contain and manage environmental and occupational hazards for positive health. Finally, they will also help to exhibit the knowledge and skills that are needed to improve the environmental sustainability of human health systems. First year courses of the MA program include Introduction to Environmental Health, Environmental and Occupational Hazards, Environmental Law and Management, Environmental Toxicology, Occupational Health and Safety Project Work, Environmental Impact Assessment for Environmental Health, Health Care, Agriculture and Allied Sector, Industrial Sector. The second year MA courses include Gender Issues in Work, Employment and Productivity, Disaster Management, Sustainable Natural Resource Management, Safety Philosophy and Principles of Accident Prevention, Disaster Medicine and Global Climate Change, Fundamentals of Mental Health, Gender Issues in Agriculture, Rural Livelihoods and Natural Resource Management, Globalization, Environment and Development, and Introduction to Geoinformatics.
Namaskar. I welcome you all in this class of mathematics. So friends, in the last class we will discussing sequence and series. We have already discussed arithmetic progression and geometric progression. Now we will today discuss the concept of summation. This is important concept because it is used in many of the problems, scientific as well as engineering problems. So, at many places you will see that you have to find the sum of a series or sequence, and how to do it in research, and in many of your courses you will find such problems. So, suppose this is a sequence that is A1, A2, A3, AN. If we write it as a summation, A1 plus A2 plus A3 N, then we call it series. Okay. So, the common notation is that we represent it by sigma. Sigma I is equal to 1 to n, say xi, then we this this is the simple summation x1 plus x2 plus x3 and so on till xn. So, for all values of n. So, this is a series, we call it, and we denote it by this notation sigma. Here we can change even the axis. This I is 1 to n. We can also write it I is equal to some value, say 2 to n x I minus 2. So, this will be the same thing. It will start from 0, x0 plus x1. If you want to start from x1, then it will be I minus 1. I minus 1. So, then it will start from x1. Okay. So, the origin can be changed similarly, some value k to n x. If you want to start from 0, then it will be x0 x I minus k. We will represent it like this. Now, there are some basic rules of summation. Let us discuss those rules. Very simple one, and you will find it that it is intuitively correct. You use it also, but in mathematics nothing is exact unless it is defined properly. So, sigma I is equal to 1 to n k multiplied by I. sorry. Only K where K is a constant. So, this will be equal to K multiplied by N. You know very well. This will be equal to I is equal to 1 to N. So, N times K will be added. So, it will be equal to K to 1. But this is the basic rule of summation. Now, the second rule is summation I 1 to 1, again K is constant and Xi. Xi is x1, x2, x3 variable. So, this will be equal to K summation I is equal to 1 to N Xi. It means that K can be taken outside and within bracket x1 plus x2 till xn. So, since K is a constant, I think there should not be any problem. You can very well understand that write kx1 plus kx2, we have taken common K outside the bracket. So, this series will become sigma I is equal to 1 to N xi. Now, the third rule is sigma I is equal to 1 to N xi plus yi. Suppose two series are there. So, this will be equal to sum of different series. Sigma I is equal to 1 to N xi plus sigma I is equal to 1 to N yi. Again, this also is quite obvious that if you write x1 plus y1 plus x2 plus y2 plus x3 plus y3, this will be x1 plus y1 plus x2 plus y2 xn plus yn. So, here you can accumulate x1 plus x2 at one place and y1 plus y2 at other place. So, this will become xi yi. So, quite simple rules are there, you can very well understand, but nevertheless we have to define it. Now, there are some important series whose sum, the formula for their sum you should remember, because it is used at many places. So, first one, sum of first n natural numbers. So, this will be 1 plus 2 plus 3 to n. This is simple because in the arithmetic progression we have found out the sum of the series of say S is equal to x1 plus x2 plus x3 xn, where xn is equal to a plus n minus 1 into d, where a is the first term, that is x1 is equal to a and common difference is d. So, this we have derived, we have already derived in previous class that xn is a plus n minus 1 d. So, this is a series in arithmetic progression. So, here x1 is equal to 1 and common difference is also equal to 1. So, the sum will be, so this is the xn. So, what the sum is n by 2 within bracket 2a plus n minus 1 into d. So, if x is equal to 1 and common difference is 1, so it will become n by 2, 2a means 2 into 1 plus n minus 1, d is also 1. So, this will be equal to n by 2, this is 2 plus n minus 1. So, this will become n by 2 multiplied by n plus 1. So, this is a standard formula that the sum of first n natural number becomes n into n plus 1 by 2, sigma I okay. Now, we will find out the sum of the squares of first n natural numbers. So, sigma, let us say n square, that is the series is 1 square plus 2 square plus 3 square n square. How will you find out? So, from your high school mathematics, you must be remembering this formula, a minus b whole cube, it is equal to aq minus 3 a square b plus 3 ab square minus bq. Now, we will use this formula for finding n minus 1 q, where a is equal to n and b is equal to 1. So, it will become aq means nq minus 3 into a square n square, b is 1 plus 3 into n into b square is 1 minus bq 1, 1q is 1. So, this becomes nq minus 3n square plus 3n minus 1. So, this gives, if I take n minus 1 q this side, so n q minus n minus 1 q, and these three terms we will take this side. So, this will become 3n square minus 3n plus 1. So, we will use this formula for finding out this summation. Let us see how we are going to use this formula. So, at the place of n, if I put 1, so 1q minus 0q will be equal to 3 into n square, 3 into 1 square. So, 3 into 1 square minus 3 into n minus 3 into 1 plus 1 plus 1. Then I put n is equal to 2. So, 2q minus 1q, n minus 1 is equal to 1. This will be equal to 3 into 2 square, because at the place of n I have put 2 minus 3 into 2 plus 1. Again I put n is equal to 3. So, 3q minus 2q, n minus 1 will become 2. So, this will be equal to 3 into 3 square minus 3 into 3 plus 1. So, similarly we write it till n minus till n. Now, we sum it. So, we will find its summation. Now, you can see that if we sum the left hand side, so this is 1q minus 1q. So, this will cancel out. This 2q, this is minus 2q, cancel out. Every term will cancel out till here. So, on LHS it will become, it will be there nq, it will remain nq minus 0 q is equal to, on the right hand side we take 3 common everywhere. So, 3 within bracket 1 square plus 2 square plus 3 square. So, this series will come. N square minus, again I take 3 common here in this second term. So, within bracket 1 plus 2 plus 3, this another series will come. And then these 1 will be n times. So, plus n. So, you see friends, we have to find out the sum of first n natural number, square of first n natural number. This is coming here in the bracket s. So, suppose this we take as s. So, here n q 0 will be 0 is equal to 3 s, because this is s minus 3. We know the sum of this, we have already done here in the previous example. Its sum will be n into n plus 1 divided by 2. Okay, plus n. Now, we have to find out this s. So, we will keep 3s here and rest of the things we will take this side. So, this will become n q and this n will become minus n here, minus n, and this will be plus 3n into n plus 1 divided by 2. Now, if I take n common here, this will become n within bracket n square minus 1, which we can write n minus 1 into n plus 1 plus 3n n plus 1 divided by 2. Now, from here 3s will be equal to, you see we can take common in these two terms, n into n plus 1 is common in both the terms. So, I take common n into n plus 1. So, what will be there within brackets? This will be n minus 1 and then plus here 3 by 2. So, this will be equal to n into n plus 1, and if we simplify it, so this will become 2 here and 2n minus 2 plus 3. So, this will become n into n plus 1, n plus 1, and minus 2 plus 3. So, it will become 2n plus 1 divided by 2. So, what will the value of S, because we have to find out S, the summation, this one 1 square plus 2 square plus 3 square till ln square n square. So, this will be equal to n into n plus 1 into 2n plus 1 divided by 6, because this 3 will come this side at the denominator. So, 3 multiplied by 2, it will be 6. So, this is the formula you should remember for sigma. This is sigma n square. Okay. Now, another important series we are going to sum in the similar fashion, method of induction. Say sigma n cube, it means S is equal to 1 cube plus 2 cube plus 3 cube till n cube. Okay. So, as we did before, similarly we will take this in your from your high school mathematics. You must be remembering a minus b raised to power 4, its formula is a4 minus 3 aq b plus 6 a square b square minus 3 ab cube plus b4. So, we put a as n and b as 1. So, the formula for this will be equal to n minus 1 will be equal to, put a is equal to n. So, n bar 4 minus 3 n cube, b will be 1 plus 6 n square into 1 minus 3 n into b cube will be 1 plus 1 to the power 4 will be 1. So, this will become n4 minus 3 n cube plus 6 n square minus 3 n plus 1. Now, I have to find out n4 minus n minus 1. to the power 4. So, I take this on this side and other terms on this side. So, this will become n4 minus n minus 1 power 4 will be equal to, the sign of these will be reversed. So, 3 n cube minus 6 n square plus 3 n minus 1. Now, as we did earlier, we will do we put n is equal to 1. So, 1 to the power 4 minus 0 to the power 4 will be equal to 3 into 1 cube minus 6 into 1 square plus 3 into 1 minus 1. By method of induction, we put n is equal to 2. So, 2 to the power 4 minus 1 to the power 4 is equal to 3 into 2 cube minus 6 into 2 square plus 3 into 2 minus 1. And similarly, we can go on doing this till the nth term n4 minus n minus 1 4 is equal to 3 into n cube minus 6 into n square plus 3 into n minus 1. If we add both sides, so LHS, similarly these will be cancelled out and only the last term and 0 4 it will remain here on LHS. So, n4 minus 0 4 will be equal to, if I take 3 common here, so within bracket this is the summation we want actually. So, this is coming minus 6 1 square plus 2 square n square. So, we have already done it. So, you know its summation. You know also this summation, and then this is equal to minus n times this one will come. So, this is minus n. So, now if you carry out, you will find out the required formula for sum of the cube of first n natural numbers. So, let us do it quickly. So, this is the LHS will be equal to n4 is equal to 3. This is the S 1 q plus 2 q plus 3 q S. So, we write it as S minus 6, this 1 square plus 2 square plus, we have already done this summation, and what is the formula for it? N into n plus 1. So, this is n into n plus 1 into 2n plus 1 divided by 6. Okay. Then again plus 3, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus till n. So, this also you know, we have already derived it, 3, and this is equal to n into n plus 1 divided by 2, then minus n. So, if I take 3s at one side and remaining we take on the other side, so this equation will become 3s is equal to n4, and all these three terms its sign will be changed. So, n4 plus n, this will be cancelled out, and I hope I have written the formula correctly. Oh, actually, the formula for a minus b whole 4 there is slight mistake I have done. It is, you see the formula for this is equal to A4 minus 4 A cube B. Actually, I wrote here 3. So, let us correct it. It will be 4 and then 6 A square B square minus 4 AB cube plus P4. So, this is the formula. So, there will be slight change here, instead of 3 it will be become 4. So, this term will become 4 and here also it will be 4 instead of 3. Okay. So, this will remain 6. Here instead of 3 it will become 4 and here also at the place of 3 it will be equal to 4. So, here this will be cancelled out, it will become 2. Okay. So, now (4s) will be equal to n4 and this minus n will become plus n here and this will become plus n into n plus 1 into 2n plus 1. So, 6 has been cancelled out plus 2n into n plus 1. Okay. So, here if I take n common in first two terms, so this will become n cube plus 1. So, if you remember the formula AQ plus PQ, so it will become A square plus B square minus AB. So, n into n plus 1 okay, because I am taking n common. So, n cube plus 1. So, if we expand n cube plus 1, so this will become n plus 1 into n square So, let us see the plus 1 square minus 1 plus 1 square will be 1 minus n. It becomes a square plus b square minus ab, aq plus bq. So, this will be the formula plus n into n plus 1 into 2n plus 1 plus 2n into n plus 1. So, friends, you can see that n into n plus 1 is in the first term. In the second term also n into n plus 1 is there, and in the third term n into n plus 1 is there. So, we will take n into n plus 1 common. So, I take n into n plus 1 common here. So, then within brackets it remains n square plus 1 minus n here plus 2n plus 1 and here n into n plus 1 we have taken. So, 2. This will remain. So, this will become n into n plus 1 and within bracket it will be n square. This is 1 plus 1 2 again this 2, I think I have done a mistake here. So, friends, this term was negative. So, when we put it on the other side, it became positive, okay? And this term was positive. So, if we take it on the other side, it will become negative. So, here we have committed a mistake. So, it will become negative minus. So, this 2 will be minus. Okay. So, now this 1 plus 1 minus 2, this will be cancelled out. Actually, that is how I found out by mistake, because it should cancel out. So, it will become n square and 2n minus 1 will be plus n So, if I take n common from these two terms, so this will become n into n plus 1 again. So, this will become n square into n plus 1 square. So, S will be equal to, the 4 will come this side. So, this will become n into n plus 1 divided by 2 whole square, because it is 4 here. So, we can take it within the square, n into n plus 1 whole square. So, this is the formula you should remember, because it will be used at many places. So, this is NQ. So, today we derived 3 important summation formula, which will be used at many places. Now, let us see some simplified concept of convergence of series. Convergence of series is a very big chapter, but in your syllabus very preliminary concept is given. So, I will discuss only that. Suppose a series is there, now we should observe that how the series is behaving. It may be that the previous term, so say x I minus 1 is smaller than x I. It means that the terms are successively increasing for all I 1 to n. So, this is monotonically increasing. This series is monotonically increasing. If on the other hand, if x I minus 1 is greater than x I, then this is monotonically decreasing. There may be series which neither increases nor increases, neither of the case 1 or neither of the or case 2. So, we cannot say anything about such series, but about this monotonically decreasing series, if it is converging to a some limit L, say when xn is equal to L when n becomes large. So, then we call L as a limit for this series. So, we write it as n tends to infinity, xn is equal to L, and related to this the concept of convergence and error also comes. So, friends, suppose there is a positive integer sigma, quite a small, epsilon greater than 0, such that xn minus L is less than equal to epsilon for n greater than some n greater than equal to 1. Okay. So, it means that this series is convergent. So, series is said to be convergent if and only if there exists you understand the concept, a small quantity epsilon which is greater than how much whatever small number you can select epsilon, but the series will be converged only if the xn, the absolute value of xn minus L will be less than equal to epsilon for some value of n greater than ni. So, it means you just understand the concept. This is the last concept I am giving you, that it is very difficult that if I take epsilon very small. So, this is the error term. The series is converging to L, xn minus L. So, the error term, this is epsilon, error term, can we limit it within this limit? Yes, we can limit it, but if I take epsilon smaller and smaller, then a point will come when this limit will be crossed, but then the condition is that the n will be greater, because this is successively monotonically decreasing series. So, as it goes on, the value of xn absolute value of xn minus L will become smaller, and this will come within sigma. So, this is the concept of convergence of this series. So, friends, thank you very much for listening. Please ponder over this and you will understand this concept. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Namaste. Welcome to today's session